Good afternoon, buenas tardes. I'm Antonio Tijerino of the Hispanic Heritage Foundation. And as an organization, we are a national nonprofit focused on education, the workforce, social impact, and culture through leadership and innovation. In terms of education, I remember getting good grades when I was in college, but I didn't get good grades in terms of a financial education outside of school. And I ended up running up debt, didn't prepare for the future, and really struggled during tax season, which is why I feel like I've gone full circle and now hosting and moderating our first webinar to help young Latinx with important tax information for free through the new hashtag Leading con Educación program, because it's a critical part of our education that is often overlooked. Leading con Educación is a new educational program brought to you by our friends and partners Intuit TurboTax to help Latinx youth and college students with personal tax finance content like this webinar. But in addition, we're also going to be providing educational grants and scholarships to students. So please keep an eye out for the information on applying for these scholarships during this webinar, as we provide links in the chat, or you can visit hispanicheritage.org/leading con educación. Again, hispanicheritage.org/leading con educación. And you have a great opportunity to support your education thanks to our friends from Intuit TurboTax. So scholarship applications will be open until April 30th. So make sure you take advantage of this amazing opportunity. Thank you again to Intuit TurboTax for not only providing this guidance, but actually providing you with resources for your education. So today, we are here to learn about how to take control of your personal finances, starting with your own taxes. First lesson, don't do what I did or what I didn't do. Fortunately, we have two experts to provide you with guidance today that I would like to introduce. So we're going to start with Elaine King, who is a certified financial planner and author of the book, Family and Money Matters. We're also going to have Miguel Burgos, who is a certified public accountant and TurboTax live tax expert. Glad to have both of you on, and I will be taking notes. But before we get started, I think it's important to take a minute and understand why we're here today. Intuit is committed to serving underrepresented minorities, including the Latinx community, by addressing inequalities in the classroom that can help expand possibilities for job and financial opportunities in the future. Organizations like Intuit believe everyone should have the opportunity to prosper. Prosperity means different things to different people, but finances are also at the core of living the life you want to live. Helping students prepare for the future increases equitable opportunities for all. And we are thrilled that Intuit has selected the Hispanic Heritage Foundation as a partner to share in their commitment to the Latinx community. As we go through this information we're going to share with you today, we know that you may have some questions. So we encourage you to place them in the Zoom chat, and we will do our best to address as many as possible at the end of each section. Both of our Intuit experts are bilingual. So if you have a question that you'd like to share in Spanish, feel free to do so, especially if your parents or abuelos are around and have a question. So let's get started by passing the virtual mic over to Elaine to share a little bit about herself and the significance of starting early financial planning. Elaine.
Thank you very much, Antonio, and thank you, Intuit. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Welcome. Financial health. So why did we choose financial health? We chose financial health because it doesn't matter if you have $1, $100, or $1 million. What's important is that you feel like the picture, financial health. I am Elaine King. I know my name is very American. However, I was born in Peru. My family's from Peru. And I grew up with young Latin parents. I'm also a certified financial planner. And what that means is that how I make a living is helping people like you do financial planning. And why did I choose finance? You may be thinking, Elaine, there's so many more fun things to do in the world. Well, you know what? I love numbers. And because I grew up with young parents, they kind of learned with me on how to manage their money. And since I was 5, they would give me an allowance. They would give me $1 and they would tell me you can save in your piggy bank and you can plan for the future. And I remember the first time I bought my first, my first thing that I was able to save, and it was a luggage. I didn't have enough money to go travel the world, but I did buy a luggage, and that was my first step. And the numbers, it was my only way because I lived in Mexico and Peru, in different places, English, Spanish, and numbers was my only way to be good in school. Actually, my English teacher and Spanish teacher weren't very fondly of my grades, but numbers was a good thing. So if you're good with numbers, think about a career in finance. Now, the third thing that kind of why I chose finance is I saw a problem. And that's what I want to motivate you, encourage you today. If you see a problem or something that you don't like in the world, try to be part of the solution. And so the problem that I saw is that people will get too, they notice too much about the returns and the numbers and the amount of money, but that goes up and down. But what stays constant is the plan that you have in your life and what you want money to do for you. Don't let money control your destiny. You control it. So I'm going to give you 5 tips that are very critical for your well-being. I promise you they're going to help you. They helped me. And before I jump into the 5 tips, I just want to give you a secret. The secret is that you don't need a lot of money to have financial well-being. You need discipline, you need good habits, and purpose. Those are the 3 ingredients that you need to have financial well-being. So the first one is better to start with a goal today with little than later with a lot. And for that, I want you to remember the turtle and the hare. For those of you who are listening from another generation, la tortuga y la liebre, that the turtle goes slow but finishes first, and la liebre, the hare, starts fast towards the end and doesn't win the competition. The second one is any path will take you there. Really, every path will take you there. But I'm going to give you a tool that you are going to need to implement today to have a cash flow system. Number 3 is saving with a purpose. I know so many people that are so proud of having their piggy bank and their savings. And I ask them, why are you saving? And they can't answer that question. I want you to have an answer for that question. Number 4 is great reputation. I know some of you are in high school, and reputation, I remember from my time in high school, it was very important. It would open different doors for you. Maybe good grades, good projects. Well, in an adult life, good reputation translates into having good credit score. I promise you it's going to open good doors for you and save you lots of money. And number 5 is money must grow with a diversified plan. Let's face it. I don't know if you're reading the news, but inflation, if there's inflation, the money that you put in your piggy bank is not going to be the same it's not going to have the same purchasing power as it's going to have 10 years from now. So you must put your money to grow. It's imperative that you do that. So let's go one by one quickly. The first one is, how many of you have a goal? I remember when December 31st turns around, I have my 12 grapes. Sometimes I go around, with my luggages. There's so many things I do, but one thing I always do is put up a goal and I say, I'm going to accomplish this in 2021. I want you to write it down right now if you are near a pen and a paper. If not, in your phone, in your notes, you need to write it down. But here's a tip. You need to make it specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time specific. If there's 2 things that you can remember from that SMART goal, it needs a number and it needs a date. There was a study in Harvard with some students 30 years ago and then 30 years forward. And those students that wrote down their goals earned 10 times more money than those that didn't. I want you to be that percentage and earn 10 times more money. So you need to write down your goal. Why? Because there is a magic in finance and it's called compound interest. If you put $2 today, it's going to double every 7 years at a rate of 10%. Or if you put $100 today, it'll become 200 in 7 to 10 years at a rate of 7 to 10%. So the little money you put today is going to grow, and you have time. That's one thing you have that money cannot buy. So that's a tip number one. The tip number two is personalize your spending plan with a budget. And that's a spending plan. Create a personalized spending plan that reflects your goals and rewards you for getting closer. Now, how do you do that? Well, you may be asking yourself, Elaine, what do you do? Well, you know what? I write it down, I print it out, I put it next to my desk. Sometimes I put it in my mirror, I put it in my phone. You need to visualize that goal first to get to it. So personalize your spending plan. Make sure you have that goal that you identified and put it in your budget. How do you do that? Well, I'll give you a tip too. There is an app called Mint, and it's free. It's actually very, very smart, and it serves for two purposes. Well, many purposes, but two in my tips. One is that it allows you to set up a spending plan. And so you don't have to add with your calculator how much money you spend. Mint does that for you. So personalize your spending plan. It's something unique to you, and add your goal and your savings goal there. The third tip is saving with a purpose. Make savings automatic and systematic. Is there a difference with that? I don't know. If you're there and you're in the chat, tell me what's the difference between automatic and systematic. Automatic means that it's something that you say, well, you know what, for every dollar that I earn, I'm going to put a percentage to savings. That's automatic. So if you earn $10, you're going to need to put $1 to savings. But systematic is that you're going to look for a tool that does it automatically for you. You don't even have to think about it. You just have to tell that tool, hey, for every $10 I make, please put $1. And Mint can do that for you. So my tip is have 3 months of fixed expenses to avoid interruption of your dreams. And name your savings and separate them. I have some clients that they name their funds very funny names. You'll be surprised. Some of them are because I deserve it, financial independence, for my family, health, I don't know, a car, whatever you want, call it a name, because that's gonna increase the chances of you achieving your savings goal. And tip number 4 is what I was talking to you about before. Remember when you were in high school, or maybe you are in high school, reputation was very important. One of your number one best friends in finance is going to be having a good credit score. And what's a good credit score? As high as you can. But how do you build it? You pay your credit cards on time. Don't use more than 70% of your credit limit. And don't apply for a lot of credit when you go to the stores and they give you all these offers. Why is that? Because sometimes, and now if you're looking for a job sometimes can run your credit score. And if it's not favorable, they may not give you the job. For rental purposes too, if you are renting with your roommates and you don't have a good credit score, you may not get that rental that you want. Buying a car or a house, it could be the difference between getting approved between a 4% and a 7%. And right now that may not make any sense to you, but you know what? It's thousands of dollars in the term of the loan. So remember this tip, and it's going to save you time and dollars for you. And the 5th tip, and the last one, is something that is in fashion right now. I guess you've seen all the conundrum that's going on in the news with all these investments going up and down and everything. Don't get sidetracked. The best investment that I can recommend to you today is you. So this is in priority. You need to diversify your investments. And what does that mean? You need to grow your money. How? Well, number 1, your education. That's the number 1 thing you need to focus on right now, because the more education you have, the more you know, the more you earn. Warren Buffett says that a lot, and he is one of the most richest people in the world. Number 2 is your retirement or your financial independence. Maybe in 10 years, you don't want to work, and maybe you want to retire early. So always bank on that. Number 3, your future business. You always need to invest in your passion. Statistics show that the return of a business, a personal business, is over 20%. So why not invest in yourself and have your business? Number 4 is properties. So that means real estate. You don't have to worry about that now, but always invest and diversify with properties too. And number 5 is the investment portfolio, you know, stocks and bonds and things like that. So if you ask me, I would say put a little bit in every bucket. So the 5 tips, and if you remember those 5 tips, please put them in the chat. We may have some prizes and surprises after the fact. So if you remember these, let me know. And for the takeaways, so in summary, when I was in school, when I was 17 years old, when I went to college, I remember I would get all these credit card offers, and credit cards are good, but you need to always limit your spending. Start with a goal today. Write it down. Have a cash flow system for your spending plan. Think of Mint. Go to your app store and download Mint. It's free. You have nothing to lose. I used it and it helped me stay within my plan. Save with a purpose. Don't just save for saving. Put names in all the things that you want to accomplish. Aim for a high credit score. Text me and write me when you have 700. I promise you it's going to save you a lot of time and money. And finally, grow your money by diversifying. Always start with you first. Always help the community, of course, but right now, think of your education. So those are the tips that I have for you. I hope they were helpful, and please share in the chat if you thought they were, which one did you like the best? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5?
That's great. And I just saw Itzel Martinez just pop up one of the tips that she liked the most. I have several, and I'm definitely going to buy your book, by the way. Just want to make that clear because I'm figuring all of this is in there, but it's important that we put down those tips in the chat box so people can remember them because they were coming at us. Thank you, Elaine, for sharing that information. I have to admit, I've already learned a lot, but I should have met you 20 years ago because I'd have more money today. So now let's transition to one of the most important topics that we encounter as young or old adults, filing taxes. Yes, it's officially tax season, and both TurboTax and the IRS are open to receiving and processing our tax returns. To help us navigate these often complicated waters, please welcome Miguel Burgos, CPA and TurboTax live tax expert, who will share with us some important tax facts, interesting tax myths, and key tax tips that you can benefit from, including how technology brings the beauty of both worlds. Miguel.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Miguel Burgos. I work as a CPA for Intuit. First of all, Elaine, that was awesome. Thank you very much for those tips. And now let's talk about taxes. The first thing we need to keep in mind, it's sometimes we ask, what do taxes have to do with life? And to answer that, let's start defining what are taxes. And according to the IRS glossary, taxes are basically required payments that we have to make to the government, and the government in turn can use those payments to help the community for the benefits of others. Now, across your life, you will find a ton of taxes when you go to the store, when you own a property. But today, we're going to talk about income taxes. What are income taxes? Well, once again, according to the IRS, income taxes are taxes, or like we mentioned, those required payments based on your income, both earned and unearned income. And let's dive a little bit into this definition, because as we know, there's many sources of income and many types of income. But for the purpose of the IRS, they divide it in 2 types, earned and unearned. First, what's earned income? Well, basically, it's income that you have to work to actively participate or engage to receive that income. Let's say that you work at a restaurant and you get your wages, your tips, and so forth. On the other hand, unearned income, and that's what Elaine was talking about. This is where we see that taxes and finance basically cross paths. The way I like to describe it from a tax perspective is income that you can do something else while still receiving it. For example, if you follow Elaine's tips and you open a savings account or an investment account, you can be with your friends hanging out You can be at your main job. You can be spending time with your family, and still those accounts and those investments will generate interest, dividends, gains. So the main point is, if you grow financially, you will have to pay taxes, or you will have to report to the IRS that income, either if it's earned or unearned. Now, if we move on, because after understanding, just defining basically what are taxes, the next logical question is, what about me? Do I have to pay taxes? And the answer is, it depends. And the best way to know if you have to pay taxes is preparing a tax return. Now, for that, the IRS, or actually the tax code, has established some filing requirements. In this case, we're talking about requirements that are addressed for US citizens and residents. But those filing requirements are based on three main factors, as you can see. A, gross income. B, filing status. And C, your age. First, what is your gross income? Well, if we define it, basically it is all your income except for that income that the code or the law explicitly says that income is exempt. You don't have to report it in your tax return. One example of that is the Social Security income. Let's say that you only have Social Security income. You receive that income, but you don't have to report it for the purpose of your gross income and filing requirement to determine if you have to file a tax return. Second, filing status, which basically has to do with your family situation. Are you single? Are you married? Do you have children? Depending on those factors, you can use one of the 5 filing statuses, which in this case, as you can see in the table, single, married filing jointly, married filing separately, head of household, or qualified widower. And finally, age. If you're 65 or older, you might be able to receive some additional income before you're required to file. Now, do you have to memorize all these rules and requirements? You don't. As you can see here, we have a chart where you can easily see, well, what's my filing status, what's my age, how much income I receive, and determine if you have to file a return. And this is where we start seeing the relationship between taxes and our life. Because if you got a job and you have income, the IRS wants to know. If you were sick, maybe had a lot of medical expenses, or if you bought a house and had to pay mortgage interest, if you started studying towards your bachelor's degree in college, the IRS wants to know because they might give you some additional deductions and credits. Or let's say another common situation in life. Let's say that you're dating someone. Well, the IRS is not interested if you're dating someone or not. But let's say that things are going well and you decide to upgrade that relationship into marriage. You promote that special person into husband or wife. Well, the IRS wants to know because your filing status will change, and also you might have other tax rates that will apply to you. So that's how we see taxes affect life, and our life is affected by our taxes. But well, let's move to the next section because in order to be able to file our tax return, we need to get familiar with our tax paperwork. We need to get to know our tax forms. And here on the next slide, we'll be able to see just some of the most common tax forms: W-2s, 1099s, 1098s, and financial statements. I would say that W-2 is the most famous and known tax form because most of the taxpayers are employed by someone else. And this is the form where they can see how much wages and withholdings they have, both for federal and state taxes. Also, they'll be able to see other numbers that will affect their tax return. Let's say that they're participating or contributing money into an employer-sponsored retirement plan. It will be reported there. If their employer helps with a health savings account, or let's say, for example, pay for their dependents' childcare, all of that is going to be reported in that form, and you will need it to file your tax return. Looking later to the 1099s, and this is one that I would like to emphasize, especially because we're talking now about finances and taxes. If you start investing, if you start saving for the future, you will generate interest, dividends, potentially some gains on your stocks. And if that's the case, you will probably receive by the end of the year a 1099 DIV, a 1099 INT, and a 1099B. Those are the forms that report how much interest income, how much dividends, and if you had any stock sale. And this is where, once again, we see how finances and taxes cross paths and how your personal finance will affect your tax return. We also have the 1098s, which here I'm including two. 1098, which is basically the mortgage interest payment. When the time comes and you purchase a house, mortgage interest is deductible and you'll need it. And 1098T, another form that you will become very familiar with, especially if you're just starting your higher education, because it will report most of your education expenses, so then you can claim education credits or expenses. And finally, financial statements. If you're an entrepreneur and you start a business, you need to somehow document your income and expenses so you can report it on your tax return and pay your taxes. Now, we talked about that. Now I would like to address something else. And basically our tax myths, mitos de impuestos. And I would like to mention a few of them, things that probably you've heard about, maybe either online or with your friends and family. And let's see the first one. The first one says, some say the Internal Revenue Code, it's over 70,000 pages long. So the answer is true. It is relatively true that the IRS code, the Internal Revenue Code, has over 70,000 pages. Now, why do we bring this up? This might sound quite intimidating, but it doesn't have to be that way. And the reason is, although the tax code is lengthy, not all 70,000 pages are going to be applied to you at the same time. If you use your tools, if you talk to your experts, in this case, let's say, for example, that you reach out to your TurboTax Live expert, we'll be able to ask you questions and be able to identify tax law and help you to apply it properly, so you feel confident and you can make the best out of your taxes. Now, let's see the second one that I would like to consider. If we take a look here, the second one is stimulus payment are taxable and unemployment income isn't. And the answer to that, it's false. Actually, it's the other way around. Stimulus payment will not be taxable. It might affect your taxes because you maybe can claim a credit for the amount you didn't receive, but you don't have to report it as income. However, if you did get unemployment during the year, then you will have to report it as income. Let's take a look at the third one. If I make more income, then I pay more taxes. More taxes are bad, right? And let's see the answer. Let's go to the answer right away. The answer is true and false, because it is true that we only want to pay the taxes that we have to pay. It is also true that we have a tax system that is progressive, which means the more income you have, the higher the tax rate you will have to pay. However, we don't want you to hold back from looking for more income or generating another sources of income because you have to pay more taxes or because you have to file another tax form and schedule. I had a professor who explained it to me this way. He said, Miguel, would you rather pay $350,000 in taxes or to pay $1 million in taxes? Because if you made about $1 million, you'll have to pay about $350,000 in taxes. However, if you make 3 millions, you have to pay a little bit over $1 million in taxes. What do you prefer? To pay more or less taxes? Well, I'm going to try to pay as less as possible. However, let's do the math. One ended up with about $650,000. The other one ended up with about $2 million. I mean, $650,000, and the other one ended up with $2 million. And so the lesson is, don't hesitate to look for additional income or to look for another sources of income just because you have to pay more taxes. Just be prepared ahead of time to pay those taxes. And if you have to file additional forms and schedules, just contact your expert, use the resources that you have available. Now let's go to another tax myth, the fourth one. I shouldn't file a tax return unless I'm required to. The IRS has filing requirements. Sometimes they tell you you have to file a tax return if you are under certain filing status and you have over a certain amount of income. However, sometimes even when we are not required to file a return or we don't have to pay taxes, we can still get benefits out of filing a return. Because let's say, for example, let's see the answer on the next slide. We can see here that if we have tax withholding, the only way to get it back is through filing a return. If we qualify for the earned income credit, for the credit for, one second here, for additional dependents or the child tax credit, and sometimes education credits, the only way to receive that credit is through filing a return. Now, let's move to some tips that I would like to share with you on the next slide. And we have a lot of tips for millennials, but in this case, I would like to share 2 of them with you. The first one, keep in mind student loan interest. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but as of now, if you have to take loans to pay for your education, and if you have to pay interest on those loans, then you can take a deduction of up to $2,500. Education credits. Right now, we have available 3 of them. The American Opportunity Credit, where you can claim up to $2,500 per student. The Lifetime Learning Credit, where you can claim up to $2,000 per return. And also the tuition and fees deduction, where you can take up to $4,000 as a deduction. To conclude, there's some things that I want you to keep in mind. If someone asks you, what did you learn today with Miguel, the CPA? Or just keep in mind that your life events and your taxes are directly related, but you don't have to stress about it. If you have changed throughout your life, just keep in mind that it will affect your taxes. Use your resources. Contact your tax expert. Use the resources that you have available. So that way you can prepare ahead of time, you can be diligent, organize your documents, and be ready to file your tax return. Also, to conclude, I would like to share with you some of the tools that are available. Online tools, TurboTax app, turbotax.com, and the bilingual blog. Remember that here at Intuit, we're very proud of what you're doing. We don't know if you're going to be accountants. We don't know if you're going to be doctors, lawyers, electricians, but we'll know that you'll be successful and that you will grow professionally and financially. And at some point, you will have to file a tax return. So keep in mind that either through your phone, through the app, or through the website, turbotax.com, you can access a lot of articles, a lot of resources, bilingual, and also experts that are willing to help. We can help, and we're really looking forward to help you. So we wish you the best of success, and thank you very much to Elaine and also to the Hispanic Heritage Foundation. From Intuit, I can say that we're very proud of you, and then we're looking forward to help you with whatever we can. So once again, we need to weigh in what's the unique situation of each taxpayer. But if they have any doubt, please reach out to turbotax.com. There we have the service of TurboTax Live, where they can talk to a live expert, bilingual expert. It can be an EA, an enrolled agent with the IRS, or a CPA like me. And we can make sure to ask the right questions so we can get the answer from every taxpayer and make sure that they get the best outcome from their taxes, and also feel confident that their taxes are accurate and correct.
Thanks for highlighting everything I didn't know. So making me feel a little foolish, but I feel a little empowered as well. So thank you for that. So that's really key. Go to intuit.com because you need to be able to talk to an expert. And we have so many questions that we have backlogged that we can't get to right now. So that's a really good place to send people. And that way you can talk to a Miguel or an Elaine there and others that will be available. So we're running out of time, but I want to thank every one of you that tuned in. I'm kind of overwhelmed I looked at the chat and it said like there's almost, over 40 on there that are waiting. So I'm sorry we can't get to everybody, but again, you can go to Intuit and TurboTax in order to access those personal answers that someone can give you. And also tell your parents as well, and tios and tias and primos and abuelos y abuelas, because it's a really important time to get this information right now, because a lot of it is going to help your family and yourselves personally. We hope you learned something new, walked away with key tools, that will help you make a life easier and also set you up for more success in the future. And lastly, once again, thank you, Intuit TurboTax, for creating this important space. And of course, the scholarship program. So I want to leave with, speaking of which, remember to share or apply to receive one of the hashtag Leading con Educación scholarships. And I see you, Dario Anaya, you just popped up. I know you're a high school student, so get on it. Hashtag Leading con Educación scholarships. It's a hashtag. Go to hispanicheritage.org/Leading con Educación to learn more. The process is open until April 30th. And everyone have a wonderful afternoon. Stay safe, stay healthy in every way, including financially healthy. Thank you again, everyone. That was fantastic.